Well, hello and welcome back to the channel on this most gorgeous, beautiful day here in London. If you're a newcomer to the channel, you're very welcome as well. It's nice to have you here. And to keep up with all the episodes so far, do like and subscribe to the channel so every time I upload a new episode like this one, you get notified straight away. And I do hope for those of you that have been watching the episodes so far that you are enjoying the episodes and you are learning something. It's opening your mind to something new or new idea. And I hope that continues as you follow me through my video journey. So this episode, which is episode 10, we're going to look at spirit guides. So grab a tea or coffee and let's get straight into the episode. So I think one of the most common questions I get asked as a medium is, how do I find out who my spirit guide is? Who are they? Can you tell me who they are? And people generally want to know who their spirit guides are. And they also ask, do we all have a spirit guide? And my answer to that question is yes, we do. We all have a spirit guide. You don't have to be a medium or a psychic to have a spirit guide. We all have them. And I have to say, before I go further on in the video, what I'm about to say in this video is just my opinion. You may find other mediums have different opinions and different viewpoints on spirit guides, but this is just my opinion through what I've learned and through what I have experienced. But what is a spirit guide? So a spirit guide, or a gatekeeper as they're sometimes known, is somebody in spirit, normally of a higher echelon in the spirit world, who walk with us on our path through life. And they're here to guide us on a particular journey, to keep us safe and to help us make the right decision. Now, with that said, I have to say that your spirit guides will never ever tell you what to do, because we are human beings and we have free will, and we have to make those decisions ourselves in order to progress and move forward in our life's path. So spirit, your angels, your spirit guides, they will help guide you along the way, and it's up to us to pay attention to those signs and symbols that our spirit guides are giving us to help us go down the right path. And I wanted to say that because a lot of people do ask me, who's my spirit guide? And what should I do here? What should I do there? And the answer again is spirit and your spirit guides are never ever going to tell you what to do for the reasons I've just explained. So listen to your gut instinct and your intuition, because that is where it comes from. It comes from your spirit guides. It comes from your higher self. So listen to intuition. If you're being led down a certain path, it's up to you whether you choose to accept that or if you ignore it, and then you learn the lessons afterwards. I think we've all been there. Now, people do also ask if I can tell them who their spirit guides are. Now, the way I work, I won't ever tell anyone who their spirit guides are. And the reason for that is, during my work doing readings, I like validation. So when I'm saying something to somebody from their loved ones in spirit, that the sitter in front of me, can validate what I'm saying as we go through the reading, so I know I'm not just sat there talking out of my arse. And you can validate who your loved ones are because they existed, you know who they are, and therefore you can validate their existence through the messages and evidence that I'm giving you. But your spirit guides, I cannot validate, and you cannot validate unless you knew them personally in life. So therefore, I don't connect with people's spirit guides in general, and I don't generally give information about who someone's guide is. I think I've done it once for one of my followers, and that just happened really randomly, and I was quite surprised that their spirit guide stepped forward. But again, because I can't validate who they are, I will not tell you who your spirit guide is. I might get an idea of who they are and that they're around you, but I will never say your spirit guide is this, your spirit guide is that. Now, some mediums will tell you who your spirit guide is, or they purport to know who your spirit guide is. Again, it can't be validated because you don't know them. You don't know that they exist. So therefore, effectively, a medium could tell you anything and you'd believe it because you really want to know who your spirit guide is. But without validation, you can't really ascertain if that actually is your spirit guide. The other question I get asked alongside that is, can a family member, can my nan or granddad be my spirit guide? Now, I have to say and be honest, I have changed my mind throughout my development with regards to this. My answer to that question originally was no, your spirit guide cannot be your family member because they haven't necessarily acquired the knowledge and the soul's not necessarily progressed and ascended to the high echelons of the spirit world. So my answer originally was no. And I think and to add to that, I think it's because when you hear a lot of old school teachings of mediumship, you're always told that, almost not necessarily told, but always given the impression that your spirit guide has to be of some high esteem. So it has to be a monk, it has to be a nun, it has to be a god, it has to be, all these highly religious figures or these high esteemed figures. And well, actually, what I have learned through my development and through my experiences is that your spirit guide can just be a run-of-the-mill, a normal human being who once walked this earth. It doesn't always have to be a high esteemed figure, is what sometimes was what we're led to believe. And as I've said, that was my original thought, was that yes, they have to be this high esteemed figure. It has to be a monk, it has to be a knight, it has to be a soldier, it has to be this, that and the other. And I've come to learn through my development that actually it's not. So my mind has changed through the experiences that I have had in connecting with my spirit guides, and we'll come on to that in just a second. But firstly, I want to answer the question of, how do I find out who my spirit guide is? Now, I always like to empower people to find these things out by themselves, because that's more powerful. And when you are connecting with a spirit guide or a loved one, that that's them connecting. It's not someone telling you that's what's happening, but you're experiencing it for yourself. So I always like to empower people to connect with your spirit guides yourself, and don't rely on other people, i.e. mediums, to tell you who your spirit guides are, again, because they can't validate that information. So how to connect to your spirit guides? It's all through meditation. And meditation, without going into too much detail about it, is a discipline. You need to get to a place in your meditation where you are able to completely shut off your own thoughts, your own feelings, your own emotions, and allow yourself to take your consciousness to a higher level. Once you've mastered the meditation, no, not necessarily mastered, once you've got to that place where you can separate your thoughts and leave them aside for a while, that allows you that space in your mind to connect with your spirit guides. But it's also about the intention. So whenever you go into a meditation and want to connect with your guides, you need to go into that meditation with the intention of, okay, I'm doing this meditation in order to connect with my spirit guides, and invite them in. So invite your spirit guides to come and connect with you, and hopefully they will make an appearance. Now, it's not always that easy, and it's not always going to happen on the first go. It will take sometimes a little bit of time to trust yourself, to trust what you're feeling, to trust what you're seeing in your mind whilst you're in meditation. So sometimes it can take a little while before your spirit guide will step forward in your meditation, because your mind needs to be in the right place to accept the connection that you are getting, and not questioning yourself with what you do see in your mind. So talking about trust is a really big thing and a really important thing in mediumship, and we're all still learning. You can be doing this work for 20 years and you still have those moments of doubt, and you think, that can't possibly be what I'm seeing in my mind. That's far too random. But actually, it's not up to us to judge that information, because it won't mean anything to us, but you can assure yourself it will mean something to the person sat in front of you. And it's the same when you're meditating, trying to connect with your guides. It's trusting what you're seeing, feeling, or hearing that's coming into your mind, and to not judge yourself. It's very easy to see something really random in your mind and then judge it. Once you start judging it, you start talking yourself out of the experience that you are actually having. And as we say in mediumship, the first thought is spirit, the second thought is yours. So whatever you get dropped into your head the first time, accept it for what it is. Don't overanalyze it and talk yourself out of it. Just accept that it's there and lean more into it and see what else comes through. But it can take a while to build that trust up and to build that relationship up with your spirit guide, because they it can take a bit of time, and it's like meeting a new friend. You don't necessarily instantly like them. You get to know them over a certain period, and you build up that relationship. And that's kind of how it works with spirit guides as well. They are always there and have always been there, but it will take a little bit of time to build up that relationship and that trust with them. And once you've got that, it's fabulous, and you can be assured that they are always there. Now, be aware, and from my personal experience as well, is that spirit guides don't always give you every single bit of information about them at the first time. So the first time you connect with your spirit guide, you may get a sense of whether they're male or female. You may get a sense of what they look like. You may get a sense of what they sound like. You may get a name. You may get a description. You may get an idea of where they come from, what life they led before. And you're not going to get that in the first go. And as I said before, it takes that time to build that relationship. And as you build that relationship, you find out more about them bit by bit. I think a lot of people get too caught up in, I have to know who they are, what their name is, what they look like, where they're from, and they want to know all this information in one go. But that's not how it happens. Gradually, the information will come through as it's meant to come through. And also your spirit guides, in my opinion, will make themselves aware to you when the time is right for you to know who they are. And it's a process. So if you are someone that's looking to connect with their spirit guides, it is a process. Allow it time to flourish and unfold. It's not a rush, because your spirit guides will always be there. They will always be there. But they can also interchange and switch in and out. Now that's a question I do get asked as well, is does your spirit guide stay with you for the rest of your life, or can they change? Again, in my opinion, your spirit guides can change, and usually they will change when you are growing, as you grow and develop. So as your mediumship unfolds, or as your personal development unfolds and progresses, a new spirit guide may step in. I know personally for me, after about 1.5 years at the beginning of my development, I was very clairvoyant. So I would see lots of stuff in my head rather than use any of the other clairs. But there was a point where my mediumship was changing, and as it was changing, I felt a new guide step in, and as he stepped in, I suddenly started to become clairaudient as well as clairvoyant. So it was almost like that spirit guide called Ricky, I'll go into more details in a moment, that Ricky was coming in to step me up a level and to shift my mediumship and change it. And it did change, and I started to hear things as well as see things. So my clairs started to move and change, and that's because Ricky had stepped in and had switched something on and wanted to step me up a level. So as I mentioned before, I like to empower people to find out who their guides are all by themselves. And this is what happened with Ricky. No one told me that he was my guide. I felt him for myself. So the way it worked for me in this instance is I was sat in meditation one day. This is going back a couple of years now. And I didn't intend to connect with a guide. I was just going to meditation just to calm my mind, just a bit of me time, a bit of relaxation. And I started seeing this man's face in my head who I did not recognize as being a family member. And I was sat there and I started seeing the features of the face. It was a really strong, broad nose I was seeing, with blonde curly hair as well, and a very masculine face. So in my mind, that image started to pan out, and as it panned out, I started seeing more and more of this image, and I started seeing not just a headshot but a full shot. And then I started to see an outline, and he was wearing a skirt, and I thought, oh, don't tell me I've got a drag queen for a spirit guide, honestly. And as the picture got closer and closer in my mind, I saw he was a Roman soldier. Now I know I'm slightly contradicting myself, and I said earlier that your spirit guides don't always have to be of a high esteemed, but in this case Ricky was coming through, and he was a Roman soldier, and that's how I saw him. Now I'm going to sound really stupid now, but I felt really Italian all of a sudden, and I couldn't figure out why until I then figured out, oh, he's a Roman soldier from Rome. So of course it's going to be Italian, you fool. So yeah, so that was him, and I asked him, so what was your name? And I got Ricky, short for Ricardo. So that was him coming through as a new spirit guide. And I felt that he came through to strengthen me, to give me more confidence, and almost telling me that, like him, that I am a warrior, and I will get through, and I will step up, and I will find that confidence. Because at the time he was coming through, I started to doubt myself a lot, and I started to lose a lot of confidence in myself for no particular reason, but I started to lose confidence. And it was interesting at that particular time that he came in and shifted my mediumship, almost as if to say, you can do it. And that's when I started to hear more clairaudiently. Now, further validation to that, and I'm always somebody that wants to know more, and I do believe in synchronicities as well, so some of you guys may also believe in synchronicities. And I remember I was walking home from work the next morning after connecting with Ricky, and I was in my thoughts as I was walking home from work, and Ricky popped into my head, and I suddenly got the word palazzo placed in my head. Now, I've never been to Italy. I'm not really a great historian, don't know much about it, my own history, let alone Italian history or Roman history. So I thought, palazzo, I don't have no idea what on earth is talking about. So I got home and I googled the palazzos, and the palazzos apparently was an area in Rome where the Roman soldiers were housed, or they spent a lot of time there, or something like that. And I thought, oh, okay, that's interesting. So maybe that's what it's trying to tell me. So that night I obviously went to bed, and I then woke up the next morning. And obviously the first thing I did was to pick up my phone, and for whatever reason, I opened my Instagram, and the first picture I saw was a friend who was at the Palazzos. Okay, thank you very much. That is Ricky's validation for me that he is my guide. So that for me was synchronistic, and that kind of validated. Because again, I was a bit like a Roman soldier, really? Am I really getting this in my head? But that validated for me that he indeed was one of my guides. So I'm conscious of not making this video too long, and I could talk for ages about spirit guides. But I want to give you this next example just so you can see the polar opposites of who a spirit guide can be. And in this case, we're going to talk about Dolly. So who is Dolly, I hear you ask? Now, Dolly I also wrote about in my book, Coming Down to Earth, which is out now on Amazon, as you can purchase. It's called Coming Down to Earth by David Howard. Go out and get it if you've not got it already. And Dolly is a lady who I know existed, who I know once walked this earth. Let me explain more. So I give you a little bit of history. When in my old place of work, I just started my development into mediumship, and a lady called Caroline, who I'd never met before, had started working as one of our managers. And to cut a long story short, we both found out that we were both spiritually minded. Caroline, not a medium, but she's always lived her life through the 7 principles of spiritualism. She goes to spiritualist churches, she sees mediumship demonstrations. So she has lived her life very spiritually, and she obviously found out that I was also developing to be a medium, so we had that instant connection. At the very start of my development, I called a psychic line, and I spoke to a lovely psychic medium lady on the phone, and everything during the reading was absolutely spot on until she mentioned a lady with a D name like Dorothy or Dolly, and said she liked African violets, which were flowers. She's very nimble-fingered, bit of a powerhouse, very small lady. And I had no idea who she was talking about. And I know I had an Aunt Dolly, or great Aunt Dolly, in Ireland, who I'd not seen for many years. So I had to actually ask my mum, is Dolly still alive? Because I was getting this message coming through about this Dolly. So yeah, Dolly's alive and kicking. So I knew it wasn't her, and obviously I don't want to kill her off. And so I put Dolly aside. And then a few months later, I went to the church to see a spiritual art demonstration. And the medium came to me and gave me some stuff which I understood. And then he mentioned this Dolly again. And I thought, I I don't know who Dolly is because my aunt Dolly is very much alive and kicking, and he drew the face of this Dolly, and I didn't recognise who this Dolly was. And so again, I asked my mum, "Do you know who this Dolly is?" I showed her the picture. She had no idea who that person was. So again, I put it aside. I rolled up that picture, and it stayed like on my stack of paperwork in my bedroom. Didn't look at it again. Fast forward a little bit more, and this is almost 2 years later, that myself and Caroline were sat having a conversation, and I did an impromptu reading and brought through somebody that she knew that had recently passed. And towards the end of the conversation, she mentioned, "Yeah, my mum Dolly," and I was like, "Excuse me, what did you just say?" She said, "Yeah, my mum Dolly." So I went to describe this Dolly from what I'd been given from these other mediums, and the examples they were given, or this description that I was given, it matched to what Caroline's mum Dolly was like. So I went, hang on a second. So I went to get my phone because I'd taken a picture of the drawing which the medium had done, and I showed it to Caroline, and she looked at me. She then got her mobile phone out with a picture of her mum Dolly, put it together, and the medium had drawn Dolly, Caroline's mother Dolly. But for some reason, Dolly was coming through in two of the readings that I had at the very start of my development. But then things got interesting. It was in December of 2019 where myself and Caroline went to see a medium called Diane White. And I ended up getting a reading from Diane. It was a public demonstration, and Diane had come to me. And Diane had said that she had my spirit guide with her. And I trust Diane because she's spot on. And she said to me, she said, "Your guide is a little lady," even gave the height spot on, 4'11", described her personality and who she was. And me and Caroline just looked at each other. She had just described, again, Caroline's mum, Dolly. And it was at that moment that we actually realised that Dolly was in fact my spirit guide, which then makes sense as to why she came through in the readings at the very beginning of my development, because she was trying to tell me, "I am here, I am your guide." So she'd been following me for 2 years without me actually knowing that she was my spirit guide. And Dolly was she was a housewife. She had Caroline's one of 13 children. So she's not of a high esteemed figure like a Greek god or a monk or a nun, but she doesn't need to be. And it's my belief now, it's just what's the reason why I'm giving this story is because I've changed my mind, and I think actually one of your grandparents could be your spirit guide, depending on their soul's evolution. So by the time they had passed over, they could have lived all the lives they needed to. So therefore, when they're passed, they've acquired all the knowledge, and their soul has progressed to a certain level that enables them to be your spirit guide. And that's happened with Dolly, is my feeling from the conversations with her, that she had lived so many lives before that this last life, when she died in 1990, that was her last physical incarnation, because now she's in the spirit world. She doesn't need to keep progressing because her soul has evolved to a certain level that she is now a spirit guide, and she is my spirit guide. And it's quite powerful knowing that I know she existed. She is Caroline's mum. Obviously, we know she existed. I know what she did in her life. So I know that she was a real person. So I can validate that, and Caroline can validate that. So if you do want to know who your spirit guide is, take that time to get to know them. Sit in meditation and try to connect with your spirit guides. And remember what I said, it's all about the intention and setting the intention to meet your spirit guide. And allow yourself to feel it, allow yourself to trust it, and allow yourself to build that relationship with them. And again, it is a process. And sometimes, you will need to be able to master that meditation, because our minds are so busy these days. We're always thinking or over-analysing. that you need to get to a place in meditation where you can just clear your mind and allow those spirit guides, that information to drop into your mind, and again, without judging it. So that's it for this video. I'm going to finish it here, otherwise I'll be talking for another half an hour. So I hope that video was useful, it was informative, and it gives you something to think about or something to work on. And remember, it takes time, it's a process. So that's it for now. Thank you for joining me for this video, which has been episode 10. I can't believe we're 10 episodes in. But again, continue to like and subscribe to the page. Every time I do upload one of these episodes, you'll be the first to know. Until then, take care of yourselves, and I will see you soon.